Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and this episode of Someone You Should Know, we go back to 2001. It was right after 9/11, and I'm talking with a guy that is no longer around, a dear friend of mine from Kansas City. The band was Shooting Star, and the man, Van McClain. Van was the lead guitarist and one of the founding members of Shooting Star, and we got a chance to talk about good tales from the road that he had back in the days when they were just starting out. And this is just a fun story. And sadly, he's no longer with us, but I had to pull this one out of the archives, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Once again, this is Van McClain from Shooting Star on Someone You Should Know. Now, onto a lighter side, the second part of our interview is Tales from the Road. And this particular aspect of a show has to do with the fact that for 24 years of me doing this, I've never known a musician who hasn't had some interesting story from the road. And it's an opportunity for your fans to actually hear you guys actually, letting your hair down and having a good time. Keeping that in mind, what are some of the most unusual things that have happened to you guys in 25 or 30 years?
Well, there's been a lot of them, and as you can imagine, when you get a bunch of guys together on a bus or in a plane, you sort of revert back to junior high, I think.
Uh-huh.
But my favorite story to tell is we were called on the phone. This was early in our career. And we were not, particularly successful at the time. We were playing opening acts and small concerts, and we were offered to go to Puerto Rico and play a concert. We thought, well, that sounds great, and here's the deal. You guys get $5,000. You can bring a wife or a girlfriend. You're going to stay 5 days on the beach. Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah,
well,
sure does.
Gosh, we're excited. Yeah, let's go. So we talked to everybody, talked to our family. Everybody's like, we got to do it. We get in the plane. We fly to Puerto Rico. There are about 4,000 people at the airport with Shooting Star banners meeting us.
Wonderful.
We thought, now what is going on? How could this be? We get in the car. We drive to our hotel. We turn to the promoter who can barely speak English. We say, well, now what club are we playing? Well, you're not playing a club. You guys are playing at Roberto Clemente Stadium. So we had 35,000 people there at $30 a head, and we received $5,000. And the funniest part of the whole deal was we were on a stage with like 2 little speakers and 4 little lights up in the air.
Oh, no.
Playing at a stadium of 35,000 people. So it was an interesting trip. We have since gone back to Puerto Rico many times and had a great time there. But just that thing of pulling into the airport and seeing fans with banners, and how does anybody ever heard of us before? It was an amazing experience.
Outstanding. Now, here's a little story here, okay? I have a little note here from a friend of yours that writes, Dear Rick, please ask Van about the Eddie Money gig in Colorado.
Oh, gosh.
Signed, Alan Rommelfinger.
Okay. Okay, well, Alan knows probably firsthand about this, but we opened for ZZ Top at a rodeo arena.
Okay.
And there were probably 10,000 people there. But this rodeo arena was an absolute mud pit. It had rained a week before. We couldn't even get the trucks in. It was just beyond belief. And our attorney, who is a pretty famous character named Brian Rohan, who handled Boston, he actually handled Eddie Money, all the Bill Graham stuff, the Grateful Dead, all the San Francisco area bands, he was their attorney. He had come in to see us play. So he was furious about the conditions, first of all. And then we went backstage, and they had a big spread of food. The promoter, who I will not mention, but a Colorado promoter, had beans and weenies for everyone to eat. So ZZ Top and us and Eddie Money, all the guys are sitting at this table, and they kind of plop down a paper plate with beans and weenies. And so our attorney was furious. So he grabbed the promoter, and we went back to the local Holiday Inn, took all the bands, took the promoter, started charging up Dom Perignon, gave Dom Perignon to all the waitresses, and then he called over people, hey, have some wine, and charged this to the promoter. So it was a pretty famous story for a long time. In fact, the promoter and the attorney went back and forth for years fighting over who was going to pay this bill. And, of course, Eddie Money, ZZ Top, Shooting Star, we're all sitting there watching this incredible fight. And it all started because we got served beans and weenies.
Fake concerts? Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live in Denver.
Very fake.
I used to live in Denver. Okay. Yeah, we've had to deal with it.
The bill was $4,800.
$4,800
for dinner. Yeah.
Did you leave a tip?
I'm not sure what happened on that, but I just remember him calling waitresses over, who maybe were making $2 an hour and $5 tips, and pouring them glasses of Dom Perignon. So the promoter's face was purple. He was so angry.
I can imagine a couple busted blood vessels or whatever like that.
It was a great night.
In 25 years, if you were to put on a teacher's cap right now, and I was an aspiring musician wanting to know the lessons that you have learned from the road, what's the one lesson that you'd say is the most important thing to know about being a musician on the road?
I think it's being true to yourself. And when I say that, I mean you get pulled a lot of different directions. You get a lot of advice. People are always saying, cut your hair, grow your hair, wear pink, wear purple, play pop, play blues, play jazz, whatever. You're getting all this information from people that you sometimes trust, sometimes you don't. But you're not comfortable as a musician unless you're in your own skin. So if you love playing the blues, play the blues. Don't think about, well, maybe I like the blues, but I'm going to play country blues so that people like me. Mm-hmm. And I think most musicians that are true to themselves are the happy guys, the guys that really have the most fun. And it's amazing how many bands that we've played with and met where the guys playing the music they're playing aren't particularly even excited about playing it because maybe they wish they were doing contemporary jazz or classical music. Mm-hmm. And here I am playing bass guitar in a rock and roll band, So you got to do what you love. That's the thing. And you got to listen to people. I don't mean that. And you got to take advice, but don't let that advice pull you away from what you really believe in.
Very good. Very good. We've been, of course, talking with Van McClain of Shooting Star. Thanks again for being on the show, Van.
Thanks, Rick. Great to see you again.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.